I'd like to share with you a personal story. And it starts when I was very young, when I saw a movie called The Time Machine, based on in the H.G. Wells novel. At the end of the movie, the main character, George, decides to live his aristocratic life and travel through time, and he takes with him some articles from his library. His best friend, David, comes in, and he sees the maid telling him 4 books are missing from the library. And she asks Dave, I'm wondering what books did Mr. George take with him? In a typical Hollywood fashion, David looks at the camera and says the real question would be, what 4 books would you take? Now, as a child, I saw the movie and I said, why would he take books? Of course, my mind was in a different place at that time. And I think, at least according to my mother, it probably still is in the same place. My first thought was like, I will not take books. I will take with me the 3 things, or 4 of the 3 things that are more important in my creative work. Toys, toys, toys. So I'd like to share with you some of them, which I have right here. This would be the box that would come with me in this journey through time. This would be the toys that I would take with me. And the first one is a Rubik's Cube. I grew up trying to solve the Rubik's Cube, and actually, I learned a lot of things from the Rubik's Cube. And the first thing I'd like to say and brag about, I'm an architect, and I teach architecture at Clemson University. And the Rubik's Cube was invented by a colleague of mine. Amazing, right? I just don't know him. He happens to be an architecture professor. So I think there's still hope for me to make something that will change the world. The Rubik's Cube taught me incredible things, but the first one that I learned from this little contraption is I learned patience, and I learned perseverance. You see, it took me 14 years to solve the Rubik's Cube for the first time. 14 years in the making. I remember sometimes going through my drawer, looking for things, and there was the cube looking at me, so are you going to try or are you going to give up? I'm glad I never gave up because it taught me the power of persistence. But I also learned a few things from the Rubik's Cube. When you are solving the Rubik's Cube, sometimes you have to scramble things that you had already built. So sometimes you have to trace your steps back. I also learned from my mistakes. So sometimes I made a mistake in the cube and I said, oh, I'll try it again. I also learned that sometimes you have to scramble things to build them back again, and that you have to trust that you can do it. The second toy that will come with me in this amazing journey would be a chess set. Chess, this incredible toy that have endured history, and there's so many ways to play it. My mom taught me how to play chess when I was very, very young, and I used to play with my best friend. But there were times where we got a little bit bored about playing chess, and we said, why don't we spice up the rules a little bit? I learned from chess that you can follow the rules and have a great time. But if you change the rules, some things be spiced up. So for example, we used to say, well, if I capture 2 of your pieces, I can crown a pawn. So suddenly I have 2 queens. So the game changed a lot every time I captured a piece because he was in full defensive mode and I wanted to capture another one. I learned that when you change up things just a little enough, great things can happen. The ultimate goal was to have fun, and he and I did have fun for many, many days and years. Another toy that would come with me would be a paper, but not any kind of paper. Yes, this is origami paper. The beauty about origami is it allows me to make any toy that I want. And I'm only bounded by my imagination. So I can make things like the most beautiful and natural creatures or the most imaginative forms. What I learned from origami was, or at least this little paper was, you don't add anything, you don't take away anything. Everything that you need is there. And it's only your imagination that is the limits to the things that you can do with this little paper. The last toy that would probably come with me in this journey, well, I can't not go on a journey in time without my Lego sets. I mean, there's no way they're staying behind. I learned incredible things from playing Legos growing up. And every year, I got one of my students who said, I became interested in architecture because I used to play with Legos when I was a child. I said, I did exactly the same thing. Legos taught me incredible things. It taught me that, well, you follow instructions, you get beautiful things in the box, but also you get amazing things when you make it your own. I learned beautiful things with Legos as well. I learned to share because my best friend and I used to get Lego sets and then we'll pull them together in a box. And then we'll build new things. We will negotiate pieces. I'd say, well, you give me this one, I'll give you 3 of these. We used to build race cars and then race them down a board, down the stairs, and see who would be the strongest one, who would go first. And if you lost the race, you had the chance to build it again. So incredible things about sharing and bonding I learned from playing with Legos. Legos actually followed me through time until I became an adult, although I'm not sure about that. I'm still an adult yet. I came across an interesting paper that discussed about how many different ways can you combine Lego pieces. This is a result of a story when the son of the founder of Lego went to file for a patent, and the patent officer, how many different ways can you combine 6 of these blocks? The 4x2 block. Well, it took them some time to come up with the answer that is a little bit over 102 million different ways that 6 pieces can be combined. What's interesting is that in 2002, a group of mathematicians from the University of Copenhagen revisited this problem and found out that the real number is more like 915 million and some change, very large number. So I took upon to see, well, what can I do with these things? And the first thing we said, well, how many different ways can 2 of these be combined? So these are 24 of the initial ways that 2 Lego set pieces can be combined. My students were working on this. It turns out that if you ignore symmetry, that number goes up to 46. And if one of these blocks is actually a different color, the number doubles. So I became really interested as an architect to find out how many different ways can a good idea be put into practice. I use Legos in my classes, so I'm still playing with them. I have a class that's called Creative Play with Lego. And people say, well, what do you do there? Well, we come and play with Legos, and then we discuss things about creativity. And more important, we have fun. A couple of weeks ago, I had a student visiting our school, and then he came to my class. He said, I can't believe you play Lego in college. I said, well, not only that, you get credit for that. So the things that I do with Lego in my classes go from studying architecture, looking at models of famous architects, in this case, American architect Richard Meyer. We look at elements of scale and proportion. We study formal composition. We study different ways that a same set of rules can produce a new design. We study classical architecture as well, and this is a new design from a Palladian villa from architect from Renaissance Andrea Palladio. We followed the rules and created a new design. Students learn a lot about that. And we look at the details. But more important, we have fun and we learn. You see, I believe toys are not only trinkets for little kids, but are fundamental for the development in our society. I cannot conceive a world without toys, and that's why everywhere where I go in time, a box like this will accompany me. The toys that would allow me to learn and to share experiences from my life. Now, just like in the movie, I share with you the 4 toys that would come with me in this journey. What I'd like to challenge you is to look for what are the toys that are going to ignite your passion and shake things up.